Look, now they're all
Got
back
your phone
on.
out, right? I'm having a problem with my
Yes,
phone.
of course, because he walked into the
I need to
room.
call and see if it,
So I shut everything off,
Same thing happens to me.
and it
I know.
took a very long time.
This is,
We
this
couldn't
is
even
wrong, I
turn
walk
it
in.
tells you that my phone's
Is it
been
still
disconnected. I've been having this
Yeah.
problem with T-Mobile,
Yeah.
where you call us once, it says it's
I
disconnected. You
got
call me
voice, but I
again,
got static.
the call goes
A
right
lot of
through.
buzzing.
Are they all
Yep,
on?
green, yep.
It's loud.
I can give you the number if you want to.
That's right, I'm here.
Are they,
It's Anderson, right there.
Off and back on.
are they working, Bill?
They can hear us, but they're
If it hangs
That's
up on
shove
you.
it in just a little ways, Jack.
Not in
Not all.
service.
It did say
Yeah.
not in service?
okay.
I heard that one.
Okay.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah. I got it.
As you guys come in, if you can please, actually, can you pull the door shut for me real quick, please? And if you haven't signed in at the podium, please sign in on the sheet, please. As much as you can. Just a second, my live didn't start.
Wow, okay.
We should be good. I think we're good.
Okay, in that case, I will call this meeting to order. DeKalb County Commissioners, today's date is July 24th, 2023. Everyone, mics on, and off we go. Larry, you're going to sneak in ahead of Dottie, I
Yep.
understand.
I got two things to run by you real quick. Over at the annex, we have another furnace air conditioner unit that is out. I got two quotes. And on the first quote with Auburn Plumbing and Plumbing and Heating, the $9,000, that is for an 80%.
Right.
So if we want to go up to a 96%, it'd be the 11,000.
Okay,
So we have 4 units over there. This is the third of the 4. So we got one more unit that is old. I don't know if we should just let it run its course or be proactive and take care of it now too, because it's the same age as the other ones. The only reason I'm saying that is, as well as you know, during the winter is when it's gonna break. And I haven't been very concerned about this one, getting it done like right away, because it takes care of the rotunda, the center of the building. So it needs to be done, but it's not a big need, but we need to do it. So I don't know if we want to go ahead and do the other old one, or just wait till it goes out.
would it be at the same price? Do you know? It would be.
Yeah,
Those are all the same size units,
Yeah.
evidently.
yeah. So
How old is that other one, do you know?
I think it's like 30 years old, so I
really?
mean, they've been through their,
Original.
they've been around for a while.
On borrowed time.
Yeah, yeah.
Are these package units on the roof or are these split systems?
Split system, it's,
I think oh wait, yeah.
Yeah.
They are splits, I'm okay, yeah.
so,
Well, and looking at the quotes, the 92% are from Felgerhart
Felgerhart, yeah,
was almost 13 grand.
yeah. So they're pretty close and, but I don't know if, I know we need to do this one. I don't know if you wanted to go ahead and do the other old one too, or just let it run out. I just thought, make sure you know that we do have one more it's coming.
Is the other one an 80% system or is it high
Yeah,
if it is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if you're gonna convert, you convert to the high
Oh,
efficiency.
Yeah, there's no sense putting another 80% back in.
But if you,
Wonder if they'd give us a little break for doing two at the same time.
sure, they'll charge you double.
I could ask, but
Auburn Heating's always given us pretty good
Yeah,
quotes, but yeah, might be if they throw us a
yeah. If we
little
say,
bone,
hey,
you know, to do both, say, hey, if we do both,
Yeah,
can you
could
give
you
us a
get-
little?
little break on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be inclined to do both because we're gonna face the same problem. And if they have time to do them, it'd be a good preventive maintenance. 30 years is
Yeah.
more than you expect out of a
We'll
split.
be
Sure
back
sure
here.
doesn't know us anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
We'll be back having the same conversation again.
Exactly.
So, yeah, let's do them both. Let's see if he'll give us a little break,
Okay,
some kind of a break on that second one.
okay.
Can we make a motion to replace the one regardless and then to get,
Yeah.
so we can get on at least getting that ordered, or getting it coming?
Yeah. Well, let's do this. If they come back at the same price for the second one, do you want to do the second one?
Yes.
Yeah, that's,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Or do you, I mean, I can try to,
Well, now they know now they know our plan though.
I may not be watching. I would say yes, but if, you know, I mean, they might knock off the service call part
yeah,
or something.
yeah, or something. I mean,
You know,
Yeah.
for doing two at the same time.
Yeah, let's do a motion to do both. And, yeah,
I'll move
and I'll try.
that we authorize Larry to go ahead and replace both of the furnaces with the 96% efficiency units from Auburn Heating and Air Conditioning.
Have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any
So I don't need that.
any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. They did come in and finish the bat project. I'm going over this morning and start replacing the ceiling tile.
Yep.
I also see the repairs on the lamp post is complete.
Yes.
And did you get that
Yep.
through
Yep.
claims? Okay. They look good again.
Yeah.
Hope they stay that way.
So they took over 50 pounds of bat guano out of
50?
of the roof. The
50?
ceiling, over 50 pounds, sprayed very thoroughly with disinfectant and insecticide for the bugs, so we should be good.
Good.
Hope.
50 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I brought you two quotes for generators. When we were talking about, we have the money for a generator for the courthouse. We talked about doing one that would do the jail and the courthouse, and they suggested not to do that. So they gave me a quote for both the courthouse and the jail. And this generator for the courthouse will set down there where the generator is sitting for the jail. It'll be right beside of it. They'll run the cables up through the tunnel and hook into everything. So it won't actually sit here, it'll be sitting down there. Also, the quote for the one for the jail, the time that we do get a new jail, they said this could be put out there, just transported out there.
Yeah.
I know the jail generator is pretty old. So, but anyway, I wanted to bring these to you. Also, he told me we have to do that by the end of '24. Is that correct? With that money?
ARPA money.
It has to be spent by December of '26. We have to have it committed by December of '24, yes.
Okay, good. Because he told me, he goes, I don't know if I can get a generator that soon. Sure. Because you know how things are
Yeah.
as far as
As long as
ordering.
as long as it's committed by December of '24, the project has to be finished by December of '26.
Okay, good.
Now, the only problem I see of locating a generator there for this building is when we tear that building down, now we got to work around the placement of the generator if we're going to leave it there. And and you're looking at $50,000 in labor. That's a
That's-
lot of money to,
Well, and that's a big wire. It's got to
yeah.
come up
Yeah.
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Don't we have room out here beside, to the south of the, you sure?
Yep, they went out and looked at it because I went there first. Beside the chiller,
Yeah, to the south of the chillers.
yep, he said it wouldn't fit there.
they got to be a certain distance from everything and
Yeah.
the exhaust has to be away from windows a certain amount of
Yeah.
feet. It's,
Oh, that's no problem. Just pipe it in and.
oh, you said a little carbon monoxide's good for you.
Yeah, it's. Okay, so it wouldn't fit there.
Yeah,
I was hoping it'd fit there.
yeah, because I went there first and they were like,
Really?
yep. So,
Yeah, I
What
just,
if we put it out in one of the corners, away from the building, in an enclosure?
probably be your only option, really, if you, I just,
Because putting it down there, when the jail goes,
that's the problem.
that's the problem.
Because you don't know how you're gonna purpose that lot, and that generator's gonna sit right in the middle of it,
Yeah,
where it's currently at, it's gonna be right in the way. So you're looking at 50,000 wasted to install it, and then another 50,000 to reinstall it,
yeah.
you know?
So that's something we'll have to think about really seriously.
okay,
I do have a question on the quotes. The bigger unit is more expensive than the smaller unit. The $186,000 item, or wait, maybe I'm reading this wrong. Material, oh wait, I'm reading this wrong. Material, 47,000, labor, 50,000, quoted items, 88,000, budget amount, 186. What are they talking about there? Then on the other one, material and labor, equipment's only 5,500, labor's 12,000, quoted items 97,000, budget 112.
I'm guessing is because that generator is already, for the jail, is already hooked up and everything, the wiring's already there. All they gotta basically do is
Set the new one in. and
pull
hook it
one
up.
out and rewire it right there and
Okay.
put it in. And
Okay.
I believe that the one for the jail is bigger than the one they're the one for the jail is a 30K. and-
300K.
Or 300K.
Yeah, the other
and
one's
then the
230s.
230K.
Well, what I'm saying is the generator itself, okay, yeah, the generator is 6,000 more, but man, you're going up 70 kilowatts for $6,000. That's a deal.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
comparatively. I mean, 230 is a big generator too, but 300 is a really good sized generator.
Okay, let's,
I think we need to think about the location before we commit to anything, really.
yeah, we can't do anything with this until
Yeah,
we,
yeah, I'm just bringing it to you so you know about it.
yeah, heads up.
Anything else while I'm here?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Thanks, Larry. Okay, Dottie, you're off and running.
All right. Well, first of all, I would like to call up Rhonda Hunkler to help us discuss the first item of business, the Veterans Service Officer. And push your button right there, and you're on.
Good morning.
Morning,
Morning.
Rhonda.
We're here again. Yeah.
Rerun.
Right, right. So two things I want to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about Travis's ability as far as being, I feel like DeKalb County's spokesperson for best customer service. I mean, to tell you, we've been so blessed to have him once, twice, and 3 times in that position with customer service just being stellar. And the other thing I want to talk about is I just want to thank you. Thank you for supporting our department. Thank you for being with me every step of the way as I go through the hiring process again. And yeah.
You're welcome. So what's the next? Just to find somebody to hire is,
Hiring a veteran. Hiring a veteran, that way, if I'm out of the office, business just continues as usual. So before, for that front office staff, it was not always a veteran, but boy, the dynamic is so different when you have a veteran right in that spot. They're
You'd be
familiar
looking-
with military discharge papers, they're familiar with all the military branches, and it just makes it a little bit simpler.
are you looking for any experience in that capacity, or will you be training that person?
I will probably be training that person.
But
Yeah,
there's just a little more latitude as far as hiring.
right.
Okay. Any comments? Suggestions?
We'll post it in our usual spots, of course, and I like the fact that Rhonda is looking down the road. If we have a veteran in that spot already, there's sort of a succession plan,
Right.
moving along. So that's what we will look for.
Okay. And I assume middle-aged veteran or somebody that's mature enough, but not
Can't
too.
say that.
Can't
Sorry.
say that.
Doesn't matter. We are an equal opportunity
That's right.
employer.
It makes the attorneys a little nervous
Let's
there,
back
Bill.
that up
It
then.
does.
Can we say a veteran only? I mean, if you really think about
That
it.
you can, because that is necessary in our job description and with the Veterans Service Office down at the state. So
Let me
we're good there.
rephrase that.
Okay.
Somebody that could come in that would have some longevity beyond when the present administrator retires. How's that? No names mentioned or anything.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on that?
That's it.
Okay, go for it and good luck.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thanks, Rhonda. Good day.
All right, well, that's, big shoes to fill there. So, and then our other openings are housekeeper for Sunny Meadows, Community Corrections right now has a probation officer, a residential officer, a field officer, and also that part-time building maintenance person. So those 4 positions are still out and about. The public defender is looking for that deputy public defender. So, and to tell you the truth, we've been more concerned about bats than that position, so I haven't had a chance to check in with them. Development services, we increased the wage for that position, and just really haven't had the response that we had hoped. So Chris and I will take a look at that. He was off Thursday and Friday, so what else can we do? We've sent it to our different networks, hoping for some things, increase the wages. He and I will sit down and find out. Health department, still looking for a nurse. Cheryl and I have an interview this week, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. We have gotten a few more resumes, but Cheryl was out last week, and so she hasn't had a chance really to review those. Her daughter got married, and so, I tried not to inundate her with work while she was actually, dealing with that. Highway department, still CDL. Yeah, we'll see what we can do with that. We may have to refresh the postings, and I don't know. I don't know what to do. You try to make it more exciting. We looked at the wages with the job classification subcommittee, and wages weren't that far off from our private sector competitors. So what is it? It's the lack of people with CDLs. And, Ben and I may actually have to get serious and talk about hiring somebody and getting them trained the way we want them. That's, really thinking outside the box when it comes to, to things that it's not the way we've done it in the past, but we have to think creatively. So that may be a biggie. So that's pretty much for our hiring, our recruiting. We had a safety committee meeting on Friday between insurance trustees and IPEP. We talked about how many claims that we have had. I've given you guys the printouts that they provided to us. 19 claims so far this year. 15 of those come from the law enforcement area, as you can imagine. The risk is there. I will say that the IPEP's law enforcement kind of specific representative was there with us, and she was there the last time, but there was no one available from the sheriff's office to attend that meeting. So now we've made a connection between those, and last time Michelle Fosno from Community Corrections made contact with her, and so that was great. I want those 2 departments especially to reach out to IPEP and see if there's something. We did talk about a situation, kind of a trend. The doors, those big heavy doors over at the jail, we've had several fingers being caught in them. Sometimes they slam very quickly, sometimes they don't close at all. The shifting of the building, the age, on and on and on. But the people at the jail also noticed a trend with their work comp claims, and they're looking into what they can do. So that's good. Awareness is always, very important. So we really liked that. IPEP and insurance trustees were not terribly disappointed in the costs that we've incurred so far this year. They're rather encouraged. So they feel that between the safety committee, HR, our department heads, we are reaching out and we're trying to do some things to work through and hopefully keep those work comp claims down. Mike, you were in attendance. Is there anything else that I need to let them know?
I think you covered it very well.
Well, thank you, sir. Kind of the next big thing is the health plan. Probably the biggest complaint is dentists aren't in our network. None of the dentists are in any of the networks. You know, we have such few dentists, you know, that are in the network, but we'll go ahead and file the claim for you, and they will accept, you know, payment, but then they're going to charge, you know, our employee above and beyond what they get. It's pretty much what we knew, what we were getting into, because it's just their trend, what is happening in the dental world. So I'm not sure that there's anything we can do about that. When I do mention these things to the standard, that when I know about certain dentists, and I let them know so that, well, maybe they can send a representative out and talk to the dentist and see if they can change their mind. But, you know, it's a if you don't ask, you don't get kind of thing. So.
I think you would find some very interesting conversations if you talk to the local dentist about the whole insurance situation.
Yes, yeah, the reimbursements and, yep.
Both
exactly,
of the
yeah.
dentists my wife works for dropped Delta Dental, which was the
Yeah.
biggest,
Yeah.
and they won't take it.
No.
They charge $1,500 for a crown and get $600. And what's really upsetting is newer dentists, when they come to town, they'll give them $800 or $900 to get them into the system.
pull 'em in.
And then they pull back the compensation as they become established. So it's, any dentist will tell you dental insurance is not insurance. It's a prepaid dental plan is what it is.
Yep.
You know, so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's unfortunate.
And most don't want any part of it.
They don't want any part of it.
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, I thought we explained it fairly well, you know, in our enrollment meetings. Not everybody attended the enrollment meetings. And so, you know, you get the, well, this is what I heard. And then it's the telephone system. And then I'm getting the calls, hey, you know, how come they're not in the system? You know, not in their
Right.
network, and, you know, having to explain it. So I'm going to reach out to the standard and to our broker to see if they will do maybe some follow-up meetings with our employees. Surest representative has already offered to come back in, maybe, you know, next month or in September, have some follow-up meetings. You know, people will have been in the system now, and there might be some questions coming up, or there may be some, you know, personal things that they would like to talk to a rep directly about. And so what we think we'll do is we will have time set up for one-on-ones. It may not be this big, you know, meeting, but I really appreciated them offering to do that. Because it's a new system, it's a new, and for a lot of the providers, the Surest is even a new company, a new, you know, vendor. And sure, they know United Healthcare, but Surest, you know, and so we do have a flyer that if providers don't understand what it is, you know, we've got it. Which reminds me that I am working with Carolyn on updating all of our health plan documents on the intranet. You know, we had all of the Anthem and, you know, for the medical, the dental, and the vision, and now, and for the last couple months, she and I have been, you know, here's a new one, and so she's been putting it on the what's new area of the intranet, and then now we're going to be transferring it over to the benefits page on the intranet and get the Anthem stuff off. We will keep, say, the HSA, UMB information, because employees still have HSAs that they can still utilize, you know, their money. So they will still need some support from UMB. So we'll keep that, but we're transitioning all of the Anthem things to Surest and to the standard. and it just takes some time. Also, what else takes time is we're going to be scanning all of the enrollment documents into LAO. It's something that payroll has done every year. That way, the enrollment paperwork is right there under every employee's, account, every file in LAO, so that it can be pulled up either from payroll or HR, and we're not having to run to a paper file and, rifle through everything. So that, as you can imagine, that's going to take some time. And then going forward, Surest and HR and payroll, if needed, will be meeting bi-weekly to talk about the transition. We've already been talking about issues that have come up that Surest has, taken and handheld, employee situations. And so we're going to try to keep up on those sorts of things. I really like that. We'll keep in touch. That will be our official, every other week call. And in the meantime, there will be, emails going back and forth, of course, if anyone has any issues. But then again, the rep handed out his business card a lot. So we have a lot of employees who are reaching out directly to him. And so just to keep us up to date on what is happening. So, we have that going on. I really, really like that a lot. We're transitioning and we're getting new systems put in place, protocols as to how to enroll, members, how to terminate members, on the Surest and the standards websites, so that HR can do that automatically and we're not having to go through a representative, and much like we've done, for either PHP or Anthem in the past. So that just takes a little time to get those things in place. But I think things are really moving along really well. I mean, we haven't even been on this, on this system a month yet, and I'm really encouraged. And we keep getting comments, yep, you get the difficult ones that you try to work through, and then you get the positive, hey, I can't believe I used to pay, big bucks for my prescription, and I went in and it was $20. What's wrong with this? I'm not paying an arm and a leg, and so it's like, yay, good for you. We like to hear those, and I want to pass those along too. So anyway, that's what we have going on.
Anything for Dottie? I see the complaints have been very minimum. I mean, it's like 1 and 1.5%, and I figure that's a success.
It's, yeah.
What's 1.5%?
Complaints,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I had 2 emails this past week, and that's
Yeah.
out of
And,
200.
hopefully we are working through, HR doesn't have all the answers, but we have the contacts who can. And as I've mentioned, Surest is really, has been hand-holding some difficult situations that we've had. And I think they're doing a nice job with that.
Okay, all righty. We're up against the clock.
I
so-
know. And I had half of my time gone, but
Well,
so that was
you kinda robbed
no,
you.
it was still good. It was still good. We needed to take care of those things. So
We don't have to start right at 9. It's not a public hearing.
Right.
I know, I realize
I
that,
just wanted to make sure
I realize
that we didn't have to do it right at 9.
Thanks,
but you know me and the clock.
all right, see you guys.
Thanks, Dottie. Have a good day, good week. Okay, so we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the SB4 health funding public comment. And we will start out this meeting with Tyler Johnson, maybe 5 or 10 minutes with Tyler with some comments and questions, and then we will switch over to the public. And the public, we will do 5 minutes each maximum, and that includes the switch out of each individual. And we'll go alternating against and for the opting in of the SB4 health plan. So Tyler, if you want to,
I have two letters. One of them Tyler was part of. I don't know if you want me to read this into the record now? Okay.
okay.
So this is from the State of Indiana House of Representatives, Tyler Johnson, Susan Glick, and Ben Smaltz. Dear County Commissioners, we, the undersigned representative and senators, encourage the timely opt-in of the Health First Indiana program established under Senate Enrolled Act 4, 2023. This legislation offers an opportunity to enhance the quality and extent of public health services throughout our local health departments. Indiana's national ranking in public health funding has been a subject of concern, as we stand at the 45th place. Furthermore, DeKalb County continues to grapple with serious health challenges with rankings of the 70th in percentage of smokers, 56th in obesity, and 19th in infant mortality compared to other counties in Indiana. The stark disparity in public health funding, which for DeKalb County is about $3 per capita, significantly impacts the range of services that our local health departments can provide. We understand the concern of healthcare services being taken over by the state. However, Senate Enrolled Act 4 gives local health departments flexibility in deciding which core public health services are most important to their community and which ones to fund. Senate Enrolled Act 4 explicitly states that any county that accepts additional funding for the purpose of providing core public health services does not transfer any authority to the Indiana Department of Health. Furthermore, county commissioners have the option to opt out at any time. If DeKalb County were to opt in to Health First Indiana for the year of 2024, the minimum amount received from the state would be $421,833.75, and the maximum would be $562,445. The county match for 2024 would be the average of county tax levy related funds distributed to the DeKalb County DeKalb County Health Department in the preceding 3 years. For the year of 2025, the minimum amount received from the state would be $843,667.60, and the maximum would be $1,124,890. The county match for 2025 would be a minimum of $210,916.88 and a maximum of $281,222.50. At least 60% of the new health funding that DeKalb County would receive must be spent on the following core public services: communicable disease prevention and control, vital statistics, tobacco prevention and cessation, student health support, child fatality, suicide, and overdose review, maternal and child health, HIV, Hep C, and STD testing and counseling, tuberculosis control and management, emergency preparedness, clinical care referrals, chronic illness prevention and reduction, childhood lead exposure and poisoning screening and case management, trauma and injury prevention, promotion and education, and immunization access. Not more than 40% of the new funding that DeKalb County would receive may be spent on the following: food protection, pest and vector control and abatement, public and semi-public pool testing and inspection, residential on-site sewage system permitting and inspections, orders for the decametation of property used to illegally manufacture a controlled substance, public building sanitary inspections and surveys, sanitary operation of tattoo parlors, body piercing facilities, or eyelash extension facilities. In our ongoing discussions with local schools and healthcare providers, we have garnered compelling insights into the tangible benefits this program could bring to DeKalb County. The urgent necessity for improved health services is palpable among our residents, and not embracing this opportunity could result in a significant financial burden for our taxpayers, potentially escalating into hundreds to thousands of dollars. We sincerely appreciate your thoughtful consideration of this momentous proposal. Your steadfast support is invaluable, and we are committed to providing any necessary assistance or further information to facilitate this transition. Our shared vision for a healthier DeKalb County propels us forward.
Thank you, Susan.
Hey, well, thank you for having this public hearing this morning, commissioners. I think, very public critic of the bill, but I want to understand where we're at now. I think we've given you a pretty good platform to build off of. You've got a tough question in front of you of whether you take this money and pony up some money from the county also, right? So it's a little bit of a difficult question. During this session, this was my first session down there. We had a lot of conversation on this bill. It ate up a lot of the oxygen in the room, and so it got debated pretty heavily. You know, they spent almost 2 years coming up with this plan. It hit the floor and then immediately got pulled apart because there were a lot of concerns. You know, how much authority are we going to give as a county over to the state government? We didn't. I mean, frankly, most of the legislators that didn't want that. But we didn't know exactly how to prevent that from happening. And so I was thankful that they took just a blanket statement to say that you aren't giving up any authority. It'd be hard for the state health commissioner to do that. But we've learned that they can throw their weight around and put pressure on. And so we're always careful with that. The bill's pretty detailed, so there's a lot of program requirements, those kind of things. And so probably my biggest objection in the end was, how do we control that and define that as best it could be so that if the state says you're not in compliance by using the program, what happens with that? That was really my only consternation in the end. I think we've given you pretty good protection from the state in that aspect. So I don't want you guys to think that that was not talked about. I do think it's our money, it's our taxpayers' money, right? And so I'd like to see that come back to our county, and that's kind of where I stand now. If you asked me a year ago, I'd probably say I'd prefer not for our money to go to the state and have to come back to us, but it's where we're at now, and I think we've got pretty good safeguards in place. I like the fact that you guys can opt out anytime if there's issues or concerns with it and go right back to your level funding that you had before. So I really just want to make myself available to answer any questions. I appreciate Representative Smoltz putting the letter together. But I really wanted to be in front of you to answer any questions that you still had.
Okay, we appreciate that. Questions for the senator?
I'll start if I could.
Sure.
By the way, Doctor, thank you for running and being a conservative voice for us there. I appreciate that.
For sure.
Question, did you actually vote against the bill when the bill came up to vote?
The final bill, yeah.
Okay, so again, I'm just asking questions here, but why, if the bill wasn't good enough then in its final version, why push it now? Why not ask us to opt out until we make even further changes that you wanted? What changes would you have wanted in order to vote yes for it?
Yeah, there was just one more line item I had of my checklist of things.
And what was that again?
Basically, I wanted it to be really well defined what happens when a county's not in compliance with the requirements for the right.
Okay.
And so I don't want the State Department of Health to have a heavy hand. And also I guess on the other side of that is what happens when DeKalb County decides to use the money for some other, program they want or can't spend the money the way it's supposed to be. We have hard time hiring a nurse for the health department, right? So there's issues there that, still are unchecked. I think the bill's in a pretty good place, but I still have, there's a lot of questions for it. You just don't want our taxpayer dollars going to Marion County or other places. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. You got to vote. My vote's different than your vote, so I don't want to lay it out there the same way. It was the only opportunity we had to speak. I voted across the chambers. I want to be upfront about that. And part of that process is a back and forth. And so I'd be happy if there's any concerns going forward to take those on. It's something I'm very vested in making sure we get right. And you guys have a front row seat to that. So I want to know, what qualms and what concerns you have. It's $500,000. You don't really, it's a lot of money to me. Some people it's not, you talk about state budgets or county budgets, but it's still a lot of money.
What's your concern on the compliance when you say how they'll handle non-compliance? What is your concern there?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a heavy hand in the past, and mainly from a bully pulpit standpoint of just speaking out. COVID was a tough time for a lot of people, and so that leaves a lot of, I've been talking to our constituents. We share a majority of constituents, and it's interesting to hear their qualms still about COVID, rightfully so. Hopefully we have gone past that. These programs are a little bit different. We talk about, vaccine programs, those kind of things. We'll still have, the county will have control over those specific items. So I'm pretty comfortable with that part of things.
In your opinion, what's the biggest health problem we have in the state? What's, if you could pick one thing, or even take two, what would
Yeah.
you say is causing our poor health in our state?
I mean, we've got a lot of different issues, but if you had to pick a couple, really mental health and substance abuse is a big thing. So when you talk about maternal mortality or fetal, babies dying, substance abuse is a big part of that. And we have an issue here in DeKalb County and obesity. I'm not a shining example of health myself, but obesity is another thing for that.
Well, let me ask you, that leads to my question. I'm a little overweight myself. I like margaritas and chimichangas, and that's the reason. Yeah. How do we, you're the most educated person in this room. You've admitted, hey, I like to eat too, and maybe not the best example there. You have all the information to lose weight, and I do too, yet I choose to not be at my optimal weight. How does more money help people that are already educated? And smoking's the same way. I hate smoking. My father smoked since I was born.
Yeah.
He died of lung cancer. He knew every day. I told him every day, hey, you're going to die from this. He says, Todd, I smoke. That's what I do. I don't care.
Right.
And my concern is we have a hardworking blue-collar base here. I mean, these people work in foundries, steel mills, and, they want to go home, have a cigarette, and have a beer. That's their life. It's just kind of the lifestyle. They've been educated. They've been told in school. They've been told to their blue in their face that, hey, this is going to kill you, and yet they keep doing it. I'm just trying to figure out how more money helps people get rid of the vices that they have.
Yeah.
It seems like I watch TV and I see a lady there, they're saying, she has lung cancer, she's going to die. And then they said, 6 months later, she passed away. And to me, that's a very compelling reason not to smoke. But obviously, people don't care. How does this get past that?
It's actually a very good question, Commissioner. When you look at programs that work, public advertising works a little bit to some extent, but I really don't want to see another no smoking billboard or something like that. I think the programs that work really well are the ones where you can go meet people where they're at, very one-on-one, especially when you're talking about health of babies and those kind of things. Obesity kind of works the same way. You have to have a place where people can meet and go and those kind of things. And so those take a pretty good investment. And that's probably why that's where I'd like to see the money go, is to those programs where we can have people working one-on-one, invest in time in people. Smoking's a kind of a good example and a bad example, because people that are going to do it are going to do it. You can affect a small percentage of that, and it's very expensive to do that at this point, but we're at a point in time where it's hard not to know the effects of that. There's probably a better time when people were still misled about cigarette smoking to some extent, but we're past that, hopefully. So there's much better things where we can go meet people and affect substance abuse and obesity from those standpoints.
One of the things that concerns me is we know smoking is horrible for us. Vaping is also. Yet we allow it in the state. We tax the snot out of it. We get a lot of income. So we tax people. We let them do it, but taxing it makes it okay. And then we turn around and tell them it's bad. And now we have a treatment plan for you. Wouldn't it just make sense to make smoking illegal in the state of Indiana if it's really that bad for us and we have to throw hundreds of millions to get people to quit after we take the tax money from them? It just seems counterproductive. It's either bad for you and it should be illegal, or we shouldn't have a position on it, one of the two.
Yeah. We kind of are where we are, though. That's a bigger question that I can answer in a few minutes here. But,
Okay.
I see where you're going with it, though.
Yeah, okay.
I think one thing to note with the smoking in particular, in the United States, there's 10 times more death from smoking than there is from gun violence. And approximately 50% of the gun violence are suicide. So they talk about making guns illegal. Why aren't cigarettes illegal?
And we can talk about personal responsibility for all day, for a long time. And, when your society's paying to take care of those people and, you have a kind of an obligation to to make sure they're as healthy as they could be. You know, there's a lot of people that make bad decisions, and I'm an ER doc. We could sit here and talk for a couple months about how that works out. But, you know, it's frustrating to some extent, but we should go help people when we can.
Anything else? Mike? Anything?
One other thing, if I could, one of the things, the mental health aspect really concerns me. I have family that has mental health problems, and it's just so awful. But I have to think that we're causing our own mental health issues, what we're teaching kids in school, what we're basically telling kids from when they're born they're a cosmic accident and they have no real value, there is no God, and, you know, as a matter of fact, little Jenny might be actually a little Jimmy. I'm just wondering, are we causing the mental health problems, and now we're throwing more money? When are we going to start changing our actions at a state level? This is where you come in, to where we're going to change our education of our kids, because I think it's where the mental health issues start.
Yeah, and there's a lot of discussion about, you know, is mental health, you know, cultural issue? Is it a societal issue? There's lots of factors that play into that, and that's definitely one of them. You know, we should have it easier than we've ever had it, right? You know, so we've got technological advances, food's easier to come at, you know. So I don't think we have the answer as to why specifically yet, but we definitely have an issue here in DeKalb County. And, you know, we're working on the resources, but they definitely need more help there.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator.
Okay, we will start with the public comments, and the first one I'm going to call up is anyone that's for opting into the SB4. Anyone is, raise your hand.
Can I real quick do Cheryl, the director, or do you want to do her last?
Let's do her last.
Okay.
Yeah. I see a hand back here. For? Yes, come on up to the podium.
Bill, I don't know if you saw Dr. Souter
Morning.
is here too.
Yeah. State your name and address when you're completed
My
your...
name is John Graff. Address is 5898 County Road 7, Garrett. And I'm basically here because I read the article in the paper where Commissioner Sanderson said most of your input was negative as far as opting into this. And I just wanted to come forward and say I am for it. When I read that there was $1 million available to help people with health issues in DeKalb County, I said, well, this is a no-brainer. But then I read on into the article and I realized that there were some concerns, you know, some fears that the state might take over control or whatever. I don't know what the fears are. It's hard for me to believe that our representatives that have signed on to this letter would actually deceive us and be attempting to take over control of this money once it's allocated here. So I don't want the three of you to let unknown possibilities cloud your judgment to receive this money to help out the citizens of DeKalb County. I work as a Medicare counselor over at the HIMAC Center through a state of Indiana insurance program, and we see people every week that have issues. Primarily, we work with elderly folks or people who are disabled, but a lot of people in our county have issues with health insurance and health care. You've already heard of dentists opting out, and there's all kinds of issues going on. And I think the health department is a perfect department to help us through some of these issues and advocate for us in DeKalb County. And I think they do other things. They inspect the restaurants that we go to. We want to make sure that when we go to a restaurant, the food's safe to eat. I would be opposed to that. Now, maybe you already know that there's enough money available to cover all the health concerns in the county. I don't know, but if the state is willing to give us this money to increase a positive outcome, I would think you would want to be on board with that. There may be things that I don't know. It just seems like why would you oppose getting several $100,000 to help us out here, deliver good services. And I think you were talking before about personal responsibility and should you be able to overeat and should you be able to smoke. I think a lot of what the health department is doing is education to children. If we can get kids to understand the dangers of these lifestyles, possibly they won't pick them up as bad habits. I agree with you. Adults aren't going to change. You know, it just happens. And the other issue you brought up with mental health, you seem to think that it had to do a little bit with what the schools are teaching. I don't think the schools are teaching that God does not exist.
I'm not saying ours
not
do.
in DeKalb
Yeah,
County.
no, I'm not saying ours do. I'm saying
There
it's a
may
global
be
effort.
somewhere, but not. I don't think that's something you should accuse schools of doing. And also, my brother died of complications of schizophrenia. And it wasn't something that because he didn't believe in God or he lived a bad lifestyle, he had a chemical imbalance. Mental health is, there's a scientific reason for that. And it has to do with brain chemistry. It doesn't have to do with poor choices. So I want to make sure people understand that the mental health issues are not always just because of outside influence or whatever, poor choices. Okay, thank you much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, call up someone against. Ashley, would you like to come up and address? I know you've been privy to this situation for a long time, this Health Commission and the SB4, so.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. My name is Ashley Grogg. I'm a master's prepared registered nurse. I am extremely well-versed on this language. I've been following it for over a year and a half now. Public health is vital to our communities, period. We know that. We know that we need to support the health and well-being, but it's not an excuse for fiscal irresponsibility, a lack of transparency, or common sense. And that is exactly what we're talking about with SEA 4. The legislature, your legislators, have put you and other counties in Indiana in an impossible situation. It's not logical to refuse this massive amount of money being thrown at you, especially for a good cause, because public health is a worthy cause. I think everyone in this room can agree with that. The Governor's Public Health Commission made their intentions very clear on June 30th of 2022. This is only the foundation of their plan to centralize public health and force compliance of counties in the future. They were very clear that autonomous counties are the enemy. I want you to let that sink in. We tried to warn the legislature by exposing these truths via the snippets of that meeting found on our website, h4ml.org. In those videos, you will find the following exchange and several others. Former Senator Luke Kenley stated, "Just being realistic in a political sense, as we have gone through this issue with the pandemic and we have these fights back and forth about, well, the governor shouldn't do a mask mandate, or what about vaccinations?" He continued on, "We're trying to avoid that kind of situation by making sure that everyone who wants in the program, or everyone who is in the program, wants to be in the program and wants to participate." So let's break down what he said there. He refers directly to the fights back and forth about masks and vaccinations. He's referring to the brave counties that stood their ground and refused to comply with the harsh lockdowns, the very lockdowns that have now been shown to be devastating to our economy, to our health, physical and mental. But the worst, the mental health and the intellectual progress of our school students, our children, the future decision makers. Senator Kenley knows that the key to preventing the preservation of liberty is by limiting your ability to protect your constituents in the future. He knows the best way to do this is through financial strings. We have evidence of this. So what does he mean in that second statement? Avoid that kind of situation. He means that by giving you the ability to opt in, you are agreeing to whatever strings are attached. You committed. You said, yes, I want this. I want to participate. That's your agreement. They will use this against counties who opt in, just the way they did during COVID. Do you remember ESSER funds that were tied to schools reopening? Do you remember the response to the dissent? Let me remind you. No problem. You don't have to open that way, but you're going to lose your funding and you're going to pay it back. If you opt in, are you going to have to pay this money back when you opt out? Are you then going to be willing to cut the programs and even fire people that you hire? I don't think so. Your vote to opt in is your eternal yes to whatever the State Department of Health or the public powers that be determine is in the name of public health. The legislature crowed about a clause in SEA 4, and you heard Tyler mention it, retaining county authority. What they failed to see, or maybe refused to see, is that there's a loophole later in the bill. The loophole states that you are required to meet the administrative rules set forth by the Indiana State Department of Health. Those rules, I hate to break it to you, are subject to change. And if you go on the website and look them up, you'll see any number of requirements for public health to be followed. How long before those changed? This loophole will be exploited, and whatever administrative rules the State Department adopts, you will be bound by with those financial strings. Unelected officials that you appoint, okay, so they're not on the hook. Guess what? You are. You are appointing them, and they will be forced to choose between following those rules or losing the funding that they've already budgeted and spent. So what happens when those rules are contact tracing for new and emerging respiratory illnesses? What happens when those rules include limiting the number of people who can gather under certain circumstances? What happens when those rules demonstrate what's an essential business, or that these employers have to mandate a vaccination or have to check a vaccine passport for people to enter into their establishment? You got to ask yourselves, what did your county do in those situations? How would the course of COVID been different if those brave counties didn't have the liberty to decide the best course of action for your county? Would they still be trying to force mask mandates? We all know that the Indiana State Department of Health and Governor Holcomb weren't the one passing down those orders. They were having regular meetings with the President of the United States. Where do you think he was getting his orders from? Perhaps the WHO, World Health Organization? 1 minute, thank you so much. The reason this program is being set into place is not about public health. Go watch the videos. This is about control. Thanks to Politico, an article praising the progressive Eric Holcomb for his leadership prioritizing public health, this is on the world stage. This program will be used as the blueprint to strip counties across the nation of their autonomy and undermine the Constitution, the power that you all were given through that Constitution to reject tyranny. We must protect this sovereignty of this country. This is just one skirmish in that battle. Will this vote be the shot heard around the world, or just a dud? I'm not asking you to pledge your lives, your fortunes, or your sacred honor. We, as your community, I've been asked here by your constituents, are asking you to simply vote no and opt out. The beauty of this bill is you can opt in at any time. They decided that autonomous counties will realize their misdirection and should be given an opportunity to opt back in. So you all have that option. Thank you so much. I'll take any questions you have.
No questions. We're just going to take comments at this point. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, next would be somebody for. Yes, ma'am. State your name and address.
Suzanne Drerup Davis, 5724 County Road 29, Auburn. As Dr. Johnson stated, Indiana does rank low among the states on health outcomes. So I applaud the state for their efforts to try and improve our healthcare in DeKalb. And it was a bipartisan bill, which is something that I think we all should see as a good thing. What I found is the largest block of state revenue appears to be sales taxes. That and our individual income taxes are what are going into the state. And so why shouldn't DeKalb be a beneficiary of the taxes that we've paid in? If it's a good bill, we should do it. As for concerns about government overreach on healthcare, I see absolutely no downside to providing core services to our most vulnerable, I can't say that word, population. So, they're just, if it's smoking, if it's mental health, if it's making sure restaurants are clean, these are all good things that need to be done. And while there might be concerns about what could happen in the future, well, there's a lot of boogeyman stories out there right now. And I don't think we need to worry about those. I trust that if something changes in the future, just as Dr. Johnson said, you can opt out at any time. So I don't think they're going to, and I understand that a lot of the strings that were being talked about that come, the threads that come with the money, a lot of that got stripped out in the bill. So I don't see what the problem is with that. I say that you can handle any changes that come up. If they do, if there's something that as commissioners you think is wrong for this county, you can opt out at any time, just like Dr. Johnson said. So I say opt in. If you see something bad, then you can change it. It's your control.
Thank you. Okay, we will go against opting in. Anyone like to speak against? Ann Forte, would you care to speak or?
I'll talk fast. So Ann Forte, 5125 County Road 60, St. Joe. Thank you so much for allowing comment today. As I was thinking last night when I was doing my notes, I was thinking about what was the most salient issue of disagreement on why some residents may be opposed to opting in on the funding for SB4. And I think the greatest issue of it is trust. You guys, I've sent you stuff over the last year. You know where I'm going with this, but for the sake of everybody else in the room, I'm going to repeat some of this. Let me say first that I think it would be fair to say that everyone in this room is motivated to provide the best public service. We're all concerned about public health. There's nobody here is against serving the public. We're on the same page. The question comes up as to who gets to control those outcomes, and do we trust who is in control? So my comments on the issue today of trust will be focused on the government health agencies that we saw establish some of the most draconian health measures over the last several years that most of us have ever seen in our lifetime, in particularly as they relate to vaccine mandates. And I'm going to focus on this issue because it so deals with the issue of trust. These measures have eroded trust within the public sector and raised serious concerns on our county's ability to remain autonomous in the event that you would decide to vote for opting in on SB4. Last week, I sent out a video to you and members of the Public Health Department reviewing some of the devastation that has taken place over the last 3 years. Devastation that is well known at the NIH, CDC, and FDA, and the policies that these agencies have pushed right down to the local level through the help of our state government, and will continue to do so. The fact that most of the people in this room have little to no knowledge about what has happened reveals the extent of the problem of trust. For example, how many people in this room know that the NIH was aware of extensive vaccine injury at the outset of at the vaccine rollout in 2021? How many people in this room know that the NIH was flying injured people out to Maryland in June of 2021? How many people know that the NIH promised the injured that they would let the public and medical community know about these injuries so that doctors could be aware and people might be able to get help, but they have never delivered on that promise? And so how many of you know that there are tens of thousands of people who are showing up at doctors' offices across the globe presenting symptoms anywhere from cardiac issues of peri and myocarditis, blood clotting issues, thrombosis, string of neurological disorders, ocular disorders, and serious skin conditions. And they can't get help because all they've been told is the vaccines are safe and effective. How many of you know that the CICP program, a program that is supposed to provide compensation for serious injuries or death that occur as a result of vaccine injury, has a 98% rejection rate, although thousands, tens of thousands of cases have been filed? How many of you know this? How many of you know that there's been a 151% increase in myocarditis in the military after COVID vaccination? How many of you are aware of Missouri versus Biden, the lawsuit where the Biden administration has twice now sought to have it dismissed? However, the judge has ruled that the Biden administration likely violated the First Amendment by censoring unfavorable views on social media over the course of the coronavirus pandemic, calling the efforts of the Biden administration Orwellian. Thus, the case shall continue. How many of you are aware of another lawsuit by the vaccine injured, also against the Biden administration, due to the collusion with the press and social media companies to censor the speech of real vaccine injured stories, where in some cases social media companies actually dismantled support groups, which led to some of the people in those groups being in such isolation that they were unable to receive any help from anyone, turning to suicide as their only option? This is our government at work, folks. How many are aware Are you aware that the information coming out from FOIA requests from the vaccine trials are showing grave concerns over the initial safety data? How many of you are aware that much of what we are told by the government agencies about the safety and efficacy of the vaccine actually turned out not to be true, as, for example, Rochelle Walensky and President Biden, and we were told over and over again, the American public, oh, you won't get COVID if you're vaccinated and you can transmit it, both which ended up being false. These federal agencies have set the standard for what our state agencies followed. They followed these guidelines and they're going to want us to continue to follow. Last year, the CDC also gave our state over $50 billion and as such encouraged our state to follow their recommendations when they get passed down here to the local level.
Ann, 1 minute.
Oh, dear. I really wanted to point out the fact of what happened in that meeting on January 20th, where the Public Health Commission basically mocked you guys as county commissioners. But I'm going to close with a note from my friend Bree Dressen. Bree was injured in the vaccine trials. She worked with the NIH, the CDC. She's got firsthand information on all of this. And she says, it's hard to believe because I know people are tired of hearing COVID, COVID, COVID. People just want to be done, but the government's going to come back and do this again. It's just going to be in a different form. We've got to make sure that we can keep our skin in the game and see this through to the end, even if it takes years, because there's far too much at stake here to be lost. There are far too many freedoms sailing the river, saying goodbye forever under the state of emergency. We cannot allow this to happen for future generations. This will happen again, and this will happen again in our lifetime. And this is why it's important to question how much we trust those with the good intentions, which could ultimately lead to devastating outcomes. Commissioner, the question is, does DeKalb County currently have the ability to provide adequate public health services without having to opt into something that could opt us out of our autonomy? If the county does, I would like to strongly encourage you to consider voting yes for autonomy and no for opting in on that which could potentially lead us to being under the thumb of additional draconian policies in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Okay, anyone for? Yes, please. State your name, address.
My name is Renee Hood. My work address is 801 East Houston Street, Garrett, Indiana. I am the mental health coordinator and school social worker at Garrett Kaiser Butler Schools, which is approximately 1,700 students. I have worked in DeKalb County for approximately 15 years working with children and family. I have worked at DeKalb DCS for approximately about 10 years, and then I've worked at Garrett Schools for 2 years. So I have seen firsthand some of the issues with our children and families here in DeKalb County. Some of the statistics that I've collected in the last year regarding the tobacco prevention, which is one of the areas identified for programming. In the last year for our DeKalb County schools, which included Garrett, DeKalb, and Eastside, as far as vapes that were confiscated in the schools. In the elementary level, there were 7 vapes that were confiscated. In the middle school, there were 79 vapes confiscated and THC vapes 18. At the high school level, there were 69 vapes confiscated and THC vapes that were 16 that were confiscated. Also, in regards to the vaping and the tobacco, we had in March, we had a presentation by Tall Cop Says Stop. His name was Jermaine Galloway. He came and did a presentation. He comes throughout the country and does presentations talking about drugs and vaping and the dangers of the drugs and vaping. And he also does community scans throughout the country. And when he did a community scan here in DeKalb County, he goes to local gas stations, and one of the local gas stations, he identified some products that he had not found in any other gas station in the country. And he found that here in DeKalb County, which was quite alarming to us that were in attendance. So that gives some education that we need to be able to present to our children and our students here in DeKalb County. I also attend on a bi-monthly, I believe it's on a quarterly basis, the county district safety meeting. And we also always discuss about vaping and what we're doing for education. And it always comes up that we need more education for our elementary age students. I know Austin Harrison, he represents DeKalb Central, that we're seeing elementary students that will be walking along the street and finding vapes and picking them up and not even know what's in those vapes. So as far as this, the health department and the one that identified area, the tobacco prevention, I think it's very important that we provide this education for our students. And it has to begin at the elementary level to provide this education to them. As far as the middle school and high school level, the substance use education. I collected some information from the IYI county dashboard. There's 10,000, according to the 2021 census, there's 10,515 youth here in DeKalb County. There is 2,889 youth that are on public insurance and 915 youth that have no insurance at all. Also, there is, according to the IYI dashboard, there is 640, the ratio of counselors, school counselors is 881 students to 1 school counselor. For school nurses, 640 students to 1. And then for school social workers, 7,044 to 1. Also, there is below the poverty level for students here in DeKalb County, there's 1,625 students here in DeKalb County. I think it is very important, as identified here when I picked up as tobacco prevention and student health support. I think this bill is very important for providing this education and immunizations they talked about in the identified areas to provide these for these students. This is where you talked about like mental health and education and things like that. It has to come starting at an early age and providing this education. I know we partnered a lot with McMillan Health Center and they provided some education. I know they also talked about, as far as healthier moms and babies, that they wanted to bring some more education to DeKalb County. As far as, I know someone else mentioned about like state contracts and grants. I am under the Project Aware grant that Garrett Kaiser Butler was awarded in it's been about 2 years ago. It's a 5-year mental health grant that Garrett Kaiser Butler was awarded. And as far as the ESSERS grant that someone had mentioned previously, we use that to our benefit at Garrett Kaiser Butler because we added a elementary mental health counselor to help provide some tier 2 supports groups to students that needed some extra support, whether it be like if they're having a hard time coping in class or just like some social skills and things like that. So I definitely feel it's very important to opt in because our children are our future, and having these programs and benefits will greatly help them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Against, and Larry, I see you are wanting to come up previously?
Hi, I'm Larry. I'm Larry Williams, 2418 Woodland Trail, Auburn. I'll start with kind of a summary and a conclusion and then talk about some detail. I sent an email to the commissioners last night, and I'm going through basically that email. The need for good public health care is real, but the Senate Enrolled Act number 4 is poorly conceived legislation. Governor Holcomb's Public Health Commission and the Indiana legislature have failed to produce a fair solution to public health concerns of Indiana counties. SEA 4 fails to address citizen mistrust of public health that was severely weakened by COVID political mismanagement. Governor Holcomb's Public Health Commission and the Indiana legislature failed to address the issue of public trust in their recommendations for public health law updates. The Public Health Commission, a public health commissioner claimed that more money for IDOH, the Indiana Department of Health, will lead to improvements in public health. I believe those are unsubstantiated. If they are substantiated, I'd like to see the documentation. SEA 4 creates about a costly $240 million public health bureaucracy. SEA 4 will not adequately protect the safety and privacy of medical data collection. That is actually an area that I have some expertise and some pretty unsettling experience with. And SEA 4 paves the way for significant Indiana Department of Health involvement with schools. One more thing I'll add to that is Section 49 of the SAE 4. It talks about who pays for these programs. And if you don't have insurance, okay, it'll be paid for by the state, I assume. Then if you do have insurance, if you're one of those blue-collar workers that Todd talked about in DeKalb County and you need a service, it's possible that their insurance would be attached for those costs. And there's even the third option that we don't talk about is maybe one of those hardworking people who has mental health issue, whatever problem they might have. You could even, as a county executive, create a situation where their company is charged for some kind of health cost. So look into that. That's quite interesting and maybe unexpected. I'm going to talk about my conclusion, and then I'm going to go to some of the examples. I was glad to see Tyler here. I was disappointed just to get a letter of talking points from Ben Smaltz. I think they could have done a much better job of informing the public before this was signed into law. I ask the public to support any DeKalb County commissioner who votes to opt out of SEA 4. I think the commissioner should consider scheduling public hearings on it. And I would request the attendance of Representative Smaltz and Senator Johnson in those hearings. I really did want to thank Senator Johnson for showing up. I would have liked to have talked to him some more. Just going back to some of the points, the lack of the public mistrust of public health really took hold during COVID. An NPR article, this is not a crazy right-wing publication. This a poll found that state health departments have the trust of 41% of Americans. So 4 out of 10 people trust the state health department. Local health departments did slightly better at 44%. This is the Harvard Medical School and the Wood Foundation who did that study. And the next point was the Public Health Commission. This is based on the Hoosiers for Medical Liberty. I don't know if we have any Hoosier for Medical Liberty people here. I'm not a member of that. I was just saw some information. They have a video posted of the commission talking. And at a meeting back on June 30th of 2022, the commission is humored by the fact that counties will be unable to meet public health requirements without state funding. You can see them laughing about this, chuckling about it. They also kind of chuckle about the commission is knowingly setting up counties to fail citizens, break laws, and again, laughing about it. These are quotations from the chyrons on their videos. These are not my quotations. The Governor's Health Commission will, in essence, focus citizen attention on the injustice of losing funding and services in order to pressure local officials. And one of the participants was concerned that the current requirements weren't financially enough to financially coerce counties into participating. And finally, one of these state senators, former state senator, I think, proposed that counties opting out are subject to re-education. So county commissioners would have an opportunity to be re-educated if they decide to opt out. That's pretty disturbing information. How much time do I have? 1 minute? Okay. I'm going to go quick jump to the topic of data privacy and medical data collection. There's quite a bit that establishes the IDOH tech services, Section 14, and their ability to share data with the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization utilizes a artificial intelligence program to gather and analyze social media in order to manipulate and design their public policy. If you think this is a conspiracy theory, I'd be more than happy to share with you the websites of the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization that describe this program. So these organizations are not fully accountable to the U.S. voter governance. I'm sorry, I'm kind of rushing here, and I'll wrap it up. Please feel free to take a look at what I sent out to you. Look at how the IDOH will be involved with schools, and ask yourself some questions about how much time will be taken away from academic instruction if this happens. I could go on, but I'll call it.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Larry. We got time before the break for one more. Anyone to speak for? You got 5 minutes. Yes, ma'am? Yep. The only hand I see.
Okay. I know I'm not the only hand for.
And we are up against the break time. We do the pledge, and everyone is welcome to join us for that pledge, or you can stay and hold your seat. So anyway, go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Tammy Stafford. My work address is 1359 South Randolph Street. I am the executive director of St. Martin's Healthcare and have been the executive director for 18 years since it opened. I've been a nurse for over 40 years, unfortunately, or fortunately, that's a long time, and active in healthcare in DeKalb County for over 30 years. I've worked at DeKalb Health, I've worked home healthcare through DeKalb Health, and my last 18 years have been spent at St. Martin's Healthcare. The one thing I want to bring up to you is it states quite clearly when you look at the services to be assisted by this money, this potential money to come into DeKalb County, core health services. I counted there's 30 of them. And I can also count on more than one hand, fingers, and toes the number of organizations like mine who are willing to collaborate with our county health nurses to make that happen. This bill does not say that the State Department or the Department of Health alone should tackle these. It says it is to collaborate and work with contracts and grants with an entity to make these things happen. So you don't need to hire 5 more county health nurses. You have organizations like myself. You have the schools, you have Drug-Free DeKalb County, you have Inspiration Ministries, you have Heart and House, the list goes on. You have Women's Care Center, DeKalb County Pregnancy, the hospital. You have a slew of organizations backing this because we can all work together. If you've ever been involved in nonprofit, the key to nonprofit is collaboration. This bill highlights collaboration between the organizations in the community doing the job for the benefit of the people that I serve. You talked about your blue-collar insured people. Let me tell you about the blue-collar uninsured people, because that's a huge population here. Huge. Huge enough that our clinic recently spent over $300,000 to renovate a mobile clinic to get into the communities because of the lack of transportation to reach healthcare. That's basic healthcare. I'm not talking about vaccination. I'm not talking about COVID things. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm talking about healthcare right here in DeKalb County. And I think it'd be a shame, and shame on you if you opt out of not taking advantage of this opportunity Are there going to be glitches? Are there going to be humps in the way? There always is. Nothing is perfect. I work off of grants. For 18 years, the clinic has worked off of grants. And if you haven't been to the clinic, I would highly advise you and ask you to please come, visit us, and see what we do. See what you can do with grant money, because I think it will amaze you. What we're asking you to do is make an investment. We're asking you to make an investment in our community, in our workforce, in DeKalb County. We're asking you to help bring more infrastructure to the county, because who wants to come to our county if we don't have good county health numbers? Who wants to bring their business here with all their workers and hire people from our county when people are missing work because they're sick, missing work because of mental health days? Mental health days aren't always the worried well, as we used to call them in nursing school. There are real mental health issues out there that need to be controlled with medication. How do you get medication? You have to have someone diagnose you and get it. But what do you do if you're not insured? What if you do not have the access to that? This can help those kinds of people. It can help us do our job. It can help a variety of organizations in our community do their job. You mentioned the challenge of reporting. Any grant you get requires reporting. I spend a lot of time reporting, so why should I, as a director, be off the hook for reporting for any money that you might be able to grant to us? That's not the way it works. I would expect to report to you on the statistics, on the things that you need numbers on. I wouldn't expect a handout. No organization in this community would expect that handout with any kind of reporting. So I challenge you to think about that. No one's looking for anything that we wouldn't have to report on. You also mentioned that all the adults, that you can't change everyone. You can't change them. Let me tell you about a 65-year-old guy who we got to quit smoking this year. There's programs out there that work. But to make those programs work, you have to have the education, you have to educate the people to provide the programs, and you have to be able to offer those programs. And this financial money that could come into DeKalb County should come into DeKalb County to help the people that you serve, your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy.
Okay, let's take our break, and we will come back after the break with more comments.
Stand up.
Old bones, man.
I think I got my notes straight. Did you get all those notes too, Susan? You can probably type faster than I can write.
Okay, we are back in session from our break. And the next up will be someone against. Anyone against? We have a person who's willing to give up their time, or we got one coming up. Your mic on? There you go.
Now it is.
There we go.
Helen Dooley, 2128 Palace Court. Mine's short and brief. Just have some questions that I would like to be clarified by the commissioners is, a lot of the concern of the no's is what happens when they start changing the rules down the line. That's the biggest concern I'm hearing in the room from the people I've talked to. The opting out, what exactly does that look like, how to opt out? How do we set ourselves up that if we do decide to opt out later on, that we don't hurt ourselves by having too much legacy cost into taking this money now, hiring a bunch of people, facilities, whatever we need to do to get the money, and then we decide to opt out later on when they've changed the rules that we're all concerned about, and then now we're stuck having to do whatever they tell us because we spent too much money on the to get the money in the first place, hiring more people and stuff like that. That's my biggest concern, is to understand how to opt out, how easy is it to opt out if we decide in a year from now, hey, this money's not worth what they're wanting to change on us, because they can change legislation on us if they want to, because we have to opt in every year from what I understand in the bill. And that means they can probably change it every year if we have to opt in every year. What does it look like for us to actually opt out? I think that's not very clear for us, besides saying, hey, we want out of this. Do we have to pay back the money? If they're saying we don't have to, but is it in writing that we don't have to? That's my only concern. I want to make sure that we are fully understanding all that. Maybe it was in there, I just didn't understand the bill when I read it. But that's my concern. I do like having a chance to take the money and using it for the good. I just don't want it to be a shiny object that we grab onto. Now there's a hook, we're stuck in it, and we can't opt out when they decide to change stuff down the line. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, you can.
I don't think I need 5 minutes. Andrew Provines, 3920 County Road 75. So, in my opinion, I don't have facts, I don't have figures. I've read the bill a number of times, but we have money, which is hard to turn down because technically it is our money. You know, we've already paid for this. And then on the other side, we have control. So, I mean, the state probably could have come in and said, hey, we're just going to give all the counties some money to spend on your health boards. You guys spend it how you see fit. That's not the point. I mean, in their guidelines, they want some control. They want to make sure that we spend the money in the way that they want us to spend it. So it's not, they could have just said, hey, here's money. You know, Ben Smaltz said at a number of GOP things that Indiana's doing a great job. Our state budget's good. We got money. We're going to spend money. We're going to use this and help. But they want us to spend it in a certain way. So it's really, you know, how they want us to spend it. So I don't think anyone in here really 100% trusts their government. That's at local level, state level, federal level. Let's be honest. We know that there's corruption at every single level. And you guys are the ones that get to deal with people. Get up to the state level, I feel like they deal with people less. They don't get to talk to the common people. Get to the federal level, they have even less interaction. So unless you guys actually voice our concerns and voice the problems that we have with government control, it's never going to get there. You guys are the ones that actually have to take a stand and say, no, we don't agree with your control. We don't agree with your guidelines. We want to spend the money the way that we want to spend it and the way that our people will benefit them the most. So I disagree with opting in.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, we will jump over to anyone in favor of? Yes, come on up.
Good morning. I'm Clara Mary Weinbrenner, 400 East 7th Street, Auburn, Indiana. And I'm in favor of taking the money. You know, I worked with my dad, and Mr. Sanderson can probably relate to that. When one works in a family business, we get the pearls of wisdom all the time. Sometimes you want to say, enough, enough. But there were two pearls of wisdom passed down to me by my father that apply in this case. And the first one is, when someone's passing out money, you take it. Later, you figure out whether you got to return it or give it to someone else. But if they're passing it out, you take it. I realize this room is very suspect about that, but that leads to the second one. Some of the folks in here believe in conspiracies. And the second rule of Grant Van Horn was they make great movies and great novels, but human beings can only handle 2, at the most 3 steps. It's not that well planned out. It's not that well put together because it would fall apart. Now, we can see how things lead to several step processes and things get out of hand, but nobody's up there planning some big takeover. And the proof of that is in IC 1646-10-2.2L. The statute by itself says the county can opt out anytime it wants. Now, Kellen mentioned the nuts and bolts. How do they do that? Can't answer that. They probably don't have it all in place. But the program itself is only set up for 2 years to see how it goes, because after all, the state doesn't know if throwing money at public health is going to improve public health. And we don't know until we try it. This is a trial run. This is an experiment to see if we can improve public health. DeKalb County is the 3rd from the bottom of counties in DeKalb in the state of Indiana. And the state of Indiana is what, the 45th out of 50? Marion County spends $80 per person on public health, and DeKalb County spends, I can't quite tell in this graph, but I'd say about $2.50. One of the jobs of government is to take care of the citizens. So let's see in this 2-year experiment whether we can do a better job taking care of the citizens. The things that are on the list that we can spend, maybe we would have picked some other things. But there's nothing on there that we don't want to spend. It's like getting a gift certificate to a particular restaurant. It might not be the one you want to go to that night, but if you got a gift card, at some point you're going to use that. And then on your own nickel, you can go to the place you most wanted to go. Of course, we're putting some of our own money in here. Maybe we could gear that at something we want more. But I looked at the list. The list is very long of things that you're supposed to pay for with this money. And, you know, who here is against taking care of children? Anybody? Who here is against taking care of families? I mean, there's plenty of ways that we can spend this money that don't hurt us and help our community. So let's do it. And that gets to the second, oh, well, I gave you the 2 maxims. They're passing out money. If they're passing out money, we'll take it. If it doesn't work for us, we'll quit. We have good, strong leaders. They're capable of doing that. Let's see if we can't make this a better community.
Thank you, Claire Mary. Okay, next we have a person who wants to speak but has given their time over to Ashley Grogg. So Ashley, come on up. You've been up once.
Yep, I'm going to try to be real brief this time. I'm going to give you all the information you need to vote out, to opt out this year. First of all, to address some of the comments made by the other nurse that was up here, again, master's prepared registered nurse, public health is about prevention, not disease management. What she's proposing is disease management, and the direction of that is a very slippery slope because then you get into Medicaid for all socialized healthcare. I just want you guys to put that on your radar and think about that. That may not be on the table right now, but that's the direction that this is going if we think in the same line of thought that she was talking about. I talked with Assessor Sleeper last week. She said estimated about $400,000 that was going from the county tax levy to your public health department the past 3 years. Again, that was an assessment. So if you take and you look at the information provided by the State Department of Health, your opt-in for 2024 will give you a minimum of $421,000, okay? So you're looking at a discrepancy of about $20,000 that the state is going to give you for 2024 and you're putting in the rest. Do you want to opt into that? Is that worth the risk? I don't think the risk is worth it for 2025 even, but your max amount is $562,000, in this public health funding. That's an increase of about $160,000. How they determine the difference between you getting $20,000 from the state and $160,000, I'm not quite sure. But you can see the discrepancy here is not that great. In the past, your legacy amount from the local health maintenance fund was $56,000. $56,000 is what you were getting from the state to pay for your public health. You're only going to get $20,000 at the low end if that's where they hit. And it looks like that could be the case. Further, opting out this year sends a very clear message to your legislators that you're not willing to risk the freedom. You're not willing to go on a whim and just go out to eat because, by golly, I have a gift card and I can. That's a poor analogy. That goes back to that fiscal responsibility that I was talking about earlier. You can opt in at any time. Opt out this year. This gives the legislature the opportunity to go back and fix their mistakes, to shore up this bill and correct it. By opting in, you guys are just giving it up. Where is the bravery? That's what got us out of the mess with COVID. This is not conspiracy theory. This is fact. I went to all the hearings down at the State House. Dr. Box talked about how you're going to spend 10 years improving health outcomes. These don't happen overnight. And as a nurse, we know that we have specific, measurable, attainable, SMART goals. Timely, SMART goals. There are no SMART goals in this. They could have done this the right way by issuing grants to the counties so that they could focus on the important areas. Instead, they opted to feed in to the centralization of public health. And Rochelle Walensky said herself that that's the key to ensuring equitable and sustainable public health measures across the country. I can give you the resources to look that up, not conspiracy theory. So you can opt in this year and get between $20,000 and $160,000 and be subject to the rule changes in the name of public health by the State Department of Health. Or you can opt out and wait, give the legislature a chance to fix this bill and ensure that sovereignty is remained, because there is that loophole in there based on the administrative rules. They need to fix this. I presented them with options to do that, and they were ignored. I'll be happy to share those with you so that way you can take them back to Tyler Johnson, Sue Glick, and Ben Smaltz. $20,000, that's what you're talking about. That's a great bargain, right?
Thank you, Ashley.
Okay, I want to clarify, I'm the auditor. Auditor, not assessor. And the numbers that we did talk about, for your information, I looked up the property tax values that we had received at settlement time for the health fund, 1159. That is what we had talked about.
Okay. We are going to conclude this. We are even Stephen here as far as against and for. So at this point, we will conclude. We have other business
Well,
to continue.
I think Dr. Souter certainly needs to have an
Dr.
opportunity to
Souter
speak.
has opted not to speak today. I talked to Dr. Souter.
Speak briefly or communicate in communication.
I also have Cheryl's email.
I would, yeah, we've got that. I would suggest, Bill, that regardless of how many for and against showed up, these folks took time out of their day to be here.
Okay,
and would like to
then we'll have
speak,
to
and I think they
have-
have an opportunity, should have an opportunity.
I got the time. You got the time.
I've got the time.
Okay. Dr. Souter? I didn't catch.
Very briefly, talk about what the problems are in the state, and they are nothing short of atrocious for a state of what we would consider proud Indiana Hoosiers to be so far behind in comparisons to other states.
Dr. Souter, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I hate to, how do we compare to the surrounding states?
Surrounding states, I don't actually know. And that's a really good question because when we toss our numbers up against a state like New York, where their taxation base could be extremely high, that would be a really helpful bit of information to see where we are there too.
The surrounding states are very similar to us.
They're listed all in that ranking. I don't happen to have it right in front of me, but we could look at the ranking and see where they sit really quickly.
We're all close.
So the point that I want to make is that I kind of went into healthcare and in the health department years ago to make a difference. And every day I try and make a difference in someone's life because of their medical needs or their personal and emotional needs. And so that's what we need to do at this point in time in Indiana. We need to make a difference. We need to pick up what we're doing, and whether we do it with funding or not, it needs to be done, clearly. And there are ways we could do some things without funding. However, the funding will be extremely beneficial to expand the programs and to help fortify them. So there are target areas, and we have the basic 10 or 12 basic requirements we've always done. And now we're attacking on these other 12 or so topics of major concern. And I think we need to target in DeKalb County tobacco prevention, more effort on student health and early childhood learning in terms of behaviors, including how to construct family and how to have family values reinserted into the educational system in a greater way. And then obesity and the whole problem of substance abuse, mental health, drug overdose, I would lump those into another fourth category that we can target out of the bulk of them. And we don't get really quick statistics, which is a problem, and it was alluded to by some of the opponents to the bill. And I agree that the statistical trail for this is a long trail. However, doing something now and starting to monitor it and see what rises to the top is a good thing. I've spoken to Lindsay Weaver both in person, and she was at a Indiana Family Physician meeting down in Southern Indiana this week, a couple weekends ago, and I was in attendance at that meeting, and she did a very great presentation for an hour and a half or so about what all we can do, and gave us reassurances in the health department, the health officers in the room, that the money would be not required to be returned, easy opting out, and she's the person that's in charge of running the program. Obviously, we can get into a lot of interferences from the governor and from the governor's office and from other people. Even legislators can change their idea about what they're doing thing, but they pretty much turned what was going to be a rather onerous bill that I wouldn't want anything to do with into something that's much more user-friendly, and I think we can manage. So I'm pretty much in support of taking this funding and making the best of what we can do in DeKalb County and trying to make our part of the difference here. With it's going to create more work for us in some ways, but I also want to reassure people that I have no problem hiring a person or two in the department and finding out we don't need them and having that person not be renewed. And we can make sure that anybody we bring in this program understands that it's a year by year program venture. So. And then I think also to reassure people about what the state may dictate, we have a pretty common sense approach here. When it came time to return to schools and the superintendent said, hey, do we need to wear masks? And the state was saying we needed to, and we said we don't need to. We didn't. And so standing up against some of that authority that's nonsense is not going to be a problem for you guys or for us. So I think we're a pretty good team here, and I think we can definitely utilize some funding that's going to be beneficial to the county. So, any questions for me?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one more against. Anyone wants to speak against opting in? Okay. We will conclude then.
Anybody else on either side want to speak? I think they should have an opportunity, doesn't?
No, we're done.
You know, Bill, you made a big speech about free
We're done.
speech
We're done.
last week. And
I didn't see your hands go up.
there's one right there.
Are you for or against?
I'm for.
We need an against. We're going to keep this even or else not at all. Okay. You against? You want to speak?
Renee Hammett, 640 County Road 16, Corona.
What was your, Renee, what?
Hammett, Hammitt. I just wanted to say that I'm completely against opting in right now. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't just wait, watch other counties, see what happens, and then look towards next year, depending on how this plays out. I think that would be wise. Also, just a couple comments on how many people are knocking on doors in DeKalb County begging for mental health, obesity, tobacco, other substance abuse help that are not receiving it. And also, I would agree that all people love children and want to help them. And I think in particular, parents do. And I think that parents are taking care of their children on these issues, and I'm not sure that we necessarily need the government to assist us with that. I appreciate organizations. I work for a nonprofit myself, and I love to help the community and anyone I can. But I do think that, as Mr. Sanderson alluded, that some of these issues are private personal choice issues, and I don't see on a broader scale how that is decreasing our public health. Like if he goes home and has a beer and overeats, that's his personal choice, and I'm not certain that that's downgrading my life quality in terms of public health and my residents. And I also feel like a lot of these issues we have been dealing with for a very long time, decades and centuries, and I'm not sure that this small amount of money is going to solve the problem this year on these issues. And then also, there's lots of other groups besides parents who are a huge, huge educator to their children on these things, since children seem to be, I mean, I would think all children have a guardian or a parent, correct? Like they have to, right? And I think that I wouldn't go around telling my fellow DeKalb County citizens that as parents, they're not doing their job on these issues. And then churches and lots of organizations out there that have gone out of their way to help people when they have come to them. I don't like the notion of going and suggesting to people that they have a mental health issue so that I can use some funds from the state. That's scary to me. I think that when people come to us and say, look, I mean, there was a time where I had a lot of children and my body was way overweight. I didn't feel good. And when I got to the point that I wanted help, I went looking for it and I did something about it. We have prisons and, for substance abuse, we have a whole incarceration system. We have help in that area. I just feel like this is excessive on need. And the most important thing is I don't like the control that comes along with it. I would love to increase public health and all that, but I don't like the strings and the government control.
Thank you, Renee. Okay, those four.
I'm Sarah Payne. I live at 109 Greenhurst Court here in Auburn. And not only do I now help to run a nonprofit called Fortify Life that is working diligently to help residents in DeKalb County that are experiencing homelessness. I previously worked for DeKalb Health, now Parkview DeKalb, as their community outreach person. So I'm intimately aware of the health concerns here in our county. And I came honestly just because I listened or watched the previous meeting, read the KPC reporting on the topic, and was quite confused about what both sides of this issue looked like. And so interesting today to take a lot of notes and think about this, people that have spoken both for and against. And what I'm hearing is the people that are primarily against the bill seem to be speaking really about speculations, national talking points, and possibly even some conspiracy theories. And the people that are here speaking for it are the people that are actually doing the work in our community. As representative government, I hope that you'll take the time to think about the fact that Renee Hood is working with children right here at Garrett School District. You had John, who's working with seniors right here in our community who are dealing with health concerns. You had Claire Mary, who's worked in our community with the underserved population. Myself, I saw Tyler from the United Way get up frustrated because you were not going to allow the rest of us to have an opportunity to speak. Tammy's voice was so powerful in the fact that she's dealing with people right here in our community. And so as I hope as a representative government, you'll think about the fact that we're here speaking not just about our personal beliefs, but about the clients and the patients that we serve. I'm not exactly sure where Ashley serves patients, but what I can tell you is Tammy's serving a lot of patients right here in DeKalb County. We get over 400 calls a year, we think. We actually suspect that will be a much higher number of people in our community that are dealing with poverty. Dr. Souter and Dr. Johnson both still see patients right here in DeKalb County and spoke in favor of this bill. So I hope that when you hear the voices, this isn't a one person speaks, another person speaks, another person speaks for. This is people in our community that are representing many tens, if not hundreds of patients and clients in our community that would be beneficial and served by this funding. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Anyone else against? Anyone else for? Are we all happy now?
I have a letter from
Got
Cheryl.
one more letter.
Cheryl says, "Hi all, I'm sorry, but I will not be able to attend the public meeting on Monday, July 24th. I would, however, like to mention that I am in favor of supporting the Governor's Public Health Commission. Our health department has spent extensive time following the progression of the Governor's Public Health Commission over the last year. We have had numerous meetings with the state health commissioner, deputy health commissioner, surrounding local health departments, elected officials, community partners, etc. I feel we have a good grasp on what the commission will require and the services it will provide our county. We have compiled a list of services that the health department is already doing and the areas that need to be addressed. We are blessed with many well-established partnerships that are already joining forces to enhance existing programs and bridge the gaps. Our goal with the funding from GPHC is to provide DeKalb County residents with a safer living environment, more options for care, and easier access to services for everyone. Thank you for your time and consideration. Cheryl Lynch, Director, DeKalb County Health Department."
Thank you, Susan. Okay, that one concludes that part of our agenda. Thank you, everyone, for coming and paying attention and voicing your opinions. We'll take it to in council and schedule to make a decision next week on this subject. So thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay, biweekly payroll.
I will move to
Thanks,
approve
Doc.
payroll.
I will second payroll. All those in favor? All those in favor?
Did I hear a motion and a second for payroll? I'm in.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Payroll is approved. Claims.
Read the claims, move to approve.
Second.
I had a question in the claims under the recorder fiddler. Was listed 2 different times, the same amount.
Who was it?
Fiddler.
Oh, I didn't. Do you have the clean number on that one, or?
Yeah, it's on 1154, and again, it appeared at 1160. Under a different title. I just wondered I'm just curious what the,
Let me look.
it seemed odd it appeared on the same payout.
What fund did you say it was?
It's 1154 and 1160. It's two different payouts it appeared on.
Okay.
Same amount both times, 14,735, I think.
The bill is 29,470. She pays half of it out of each fund.
Oh.
That's a split, okay. I suspected that, but I wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the same. Motion carries. Minutes.
Okay, before we go on real quick, everybody had received, I believe, last week from Greg Martz, the very first draw of the highway money. So I would like to have a separate motion specific for this on dispersing the first draw to them to keep moving on their project.
Ah, okay.
And that was $1,356,559.14.
Is that all? Is that all?
Pocket change. But with this, it gave us information, and it has that the site work and utilities are 65.31% complete, concrete 3.21% complete, pre-engineered metal buildings 54.34% complete, general conditions 4.08% complete, and overhead is at 9.78% complete.
Sounds good, I think.
I'm not so sure the site engineering is quite as complete as we'd like it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
We're getting there, but yeah.
Yeah, the things shifted a little bit there.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I agree.
Motion to pay?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to disperse that amount, what was it, 1.3? What you read?
Whatever, I'll second.
$1,356,559.14.
Yes.
I'll second.
A motion is second. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the same. Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Now we go to minutes.
I'll move to approve minutes.
And I will second.
A motion is second to approve minutes. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the same. Minutes are approved. Travel.
There was one.
I'll move to approve travel.
I will second.
Motion and second to approve travel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, the same. Travel is approved. Future highway funding.
Okay, just a second. Let me get all my stuff.
Not sure where we're going here with this. If anywhere.
Me either.
Well, I just,
Point of
we might not be
discussion.
doing anything.
Okay.
I just had that on there because we had received the email on what possibly needs to go to the council on what the shortfall might be for the gas tax in '25. Yearly, the dollars for road improvements, just anything else that the council may need when they discuss their wheel tax information. Rick had requested for for you guys to let them know how much shortfall there would be.
You know, and I don't know any more than they already know. They have the same information I have,
Pretty detailed, too.
pretty
information from
detailed.
Ben.
And
I mean, the only wild card is what our lighted funding is going to be in terms of that 900,000 or million that we've been given Ben for operating costs, whether we'll be able to continue that, I think is our biggest
Yeah.
question here, particularly with what we've got going toward the bond payment out of lighted.
I think though, in my opinion, we can continue that at least for another year and then maybe take a serious look at whether we can continue that or not. And so,
I think that's a safe assumption that we can certainly,
yeah,
we're okay for another year.
right,
I'm
okay
not-
for
I'm not
another
so
year.
sure about
We'll see what
beyond
the
that.
income is, what other expenses we might have. I think we can make some other adjustments in that budget to save some money. And
I'm pretty confident we could do the light at another year, but past that, I don't know.
don't know.
And he has they have a full report from Ben saying, here's what
Yeah.
we'd like to do, here's what the costs are gonna be. And those costs can change too, you
Yeah.
know, so for us to put a definitive number on something is,
It's pretty tough to do. It's a lot of speculation.
yeah, a lot of
You know, and
speculation.
I'm
So-
really, it's council's,
their purview.
I mean, I
Do you
understand
have
that
a
they
copy
want,
of
want
that?
some guidance, but it's their purview to hash that out as to where they want to land with that wheel tax, if they want to land anywhere at all.
Yeah, I'll get you a copy from Ben. He gave the council, each person a copy, so.
He may have gave it to me too, but I don't recall that. So if I could, because I'm kind of in the thick of budgets,
Sure.
I
Put
can
it all
help
together.
pull
Yep.
things together, I would appreciate it.
Yep. But it was pretty
Okay.
detailed what he gave me, and I mean, it was,
Okay.
and, you know, one of the big discussions for them to have is the fact that the state is not only, they're continuing the gas tax, of course. The problem is the state is keeping a higher percentage than what, they've cut back our percentage we've received.
And they will probably continue to do that.
Which doesn't make sense, though. In other words, I understand if they're gonna cut the gas tax, we all get less money. But for them to say, well, we're just gonna keep more of it and give you less of it, and by the way, better institute a wheel tax, but here's money for healthcare instead. You know, the whole thing is interesting, and I think the council would have a better grip on Rick especially seems to be very versed on how the state's running, you know.
And again, that's fund accounting rather than
Yeah.
accrual accounting.
Yeah, that's
So,
true, yeah.
You know, there you got buckets and you never get to mix those up.
Yeah, right.
But, you know, again, CCMG grants are a wild card, and I mean, if you look at some of the points made up today, maybe we shouldn't be taking, I mean, there's as many strings to the CCMG grants as there are to the health thing, and, you know.
I agree with that.
We might not
There's,
even discussed it. I don't know that I have those numbers, so I thought we were still waiting on something. So
No, but, yeah, like I
that's
said,
my fault if we weren't supposed to discuss
Ben
it.
did give a pretty big report.
Okay.
And you need to have that report for your file.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Do you want me to keep going on a few things I have?
let's go to that BZA appointment.
That's what I have next.
Is that what you have next?
And I don't even know if we're ready for it.
We are?
Is that your
Okay.
son, Mike, that's not on the BZA?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
because-
moved to Allen County.
Yeah, he's moving to Allen County, okay.
I have a candidate
Okay.
for BCA. It is Larry Williams, willing to serve in that capacity. So I would nominate Larry Williams.
I had mentioned it to Mike Schuerk, who wanted to talk about it, get a little more information, but
I'll second Larry.
Okay. A motion and a second to nominate or appoint Larry Williams to the BZA. Any additional comments?
Oh, Mike Schuerk.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion
Mike's been
carries.
good too.
yeah, very good.
Okay. Travel policy changes.
Okay, so we discussed last week multiple things. And I threw together, and they were on your table this morning. I did a quick training mileage for this year. I've only done 2023 of training that was done with a county-owned vehicle. And that would have been as of, well, even today, because the training that was approved today was not a county-owned vehicle. So there's been, you can see, there's been almost 7,400 miles done. It's between the health department, DCCC, highway, and sheriff having basically 6,000 of those.
So there was only 1,400 miles outside the sheriff that was county vehicle?
Yeah.
So, I provided that if you want me to go back multiple years, we can, but it's probably gonna be about the same. So that was mileage, and then I didn't know, well, that's for you guys to decide whether you want a different report or another report. Then I sent an email out to my 91 other counties, and for those that responded, I have a chart here on whether they do like a per diem meal allowance or a reimbursement. Of those that responded, there's more that reimbursed with receipts than the per diem, but not everybody responded.
Is that for meals?
Yeah, so
Okay.
that is.
I don't have that for some reason.
No, it should have been at your seat.
You know what, I've been writing on everything you gave me.
Todd, what am I gonna do with you?
It's a single sheet.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Is this the,
Does that have color on it?
no, this is a report from,
No.
No.
oh wait, no, that's the IPEP stuff.
Right there.
Oh, this.
Look, wait, and here's your other
Oh
one.
my gosh.
I'm gonna
what did we do without
I'm gonna
you?
put you in a corner,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna make you sit beside
I gotta
me.
sit by my teacher with the ruler in her hand.
Right?
A long ruler. You're gonna reach it from clear
Todd,
over
Todd.
here.
Okay,
The
so
abuse I take.
anyways, this is what I put together for you guys.
Okay.
Didn't know if it was helpful or not, or if anything else needed to be discussed.
So they just do a per diem or a reimbursement with receipts. Seems like most of them are that, do the reimbursement with receipts,
Of
don't
those that
they?
responded.
Yeah,
But
that's-
remember, I have 91 that I emailed, but
Didn't
only
respond.
these that responded.
I still like the per diem.
I do too.
Just easier.
It's just easier. And
They can make some extra money if they
if they
eat ramen noodles. You can, you can make some money. here,
beans
you know?
and bread and water.
Yeah, yeah.
Not really, but
What kind of per diem? I mean, are we kind of all in agreement? We like the per diem idea. What kind of money value do you assign? And like some of them here, first and last day overnight is 44.25. Days in between 59. I'd rather not do that.
I would rather not do that
Because
as well.
that's, again,
Yeah.
simple's always better, even if it costs a little more upfront. The simplicity is always better. I don't think you can eat 3 meals a day on $30. Then again, I don't eat 3 meals a day, but
I took two grandkids to Culver's and it was 55
I know,
bucks.
is that something? Yeah, fast food isn't cheap anymore, that's for sure. I'm
Taco Bell's
thinking-
like 15 bucks.
Yeah, what do we offer now for, what's our policy now?
32.
32, but they
day.
have to provide receipts and there's strings too. So much tip, can't have alcohol, that kind of stuff, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, I'd be even willing to bump that number up a little bit and just make it a per diem and let people choose. And the receipts don't matter. It's per diem, you know,
What's your number?
35 to 38 maybe, right in that range. Mike, Bill, what do you think?
I'm just looking at this, trying to get some kind of sense on the average.
Whitley's
Really all
big
over.
spenders. 75 plus 18% tip, 20% tip. It's $100.
So that county there that did the 75, she told me that they had just updated it. And they were way, way, way under that. She does feel that they went a little
high.
overboard there. I'm
No.
like, yeah, you think?
I think 50
but-
bucks is a good number.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike likes 50. What do you like, Bill?
40. I like 40.
I'm on the low end, huh? Oh,
Yeah.
man.
You're the most conservative.
I don't know about that. I'd rather not, I see where Mike's going with that. I want to make sure our employees are taken care of. I don't know if I want to go all the way to 50.
They are obligated to feed themselves whether they're traveling on our dime or not.
Right, right.
So we have to take that into consideration. You know, I mean, they got to have something there.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't feed them completely.
Yeah.
That's not our obligation.
Quite frankly, most of the time, I mean, every conference that I've been to,
They provide food.
food's there anyway. I've never turned in a meal receipt that I can remember.
Really?
Anyway, so, I mean, most of the time, that's all provided.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's gonna be a big item anyway, so. I mean,
But if we're per, yeah, if we're per.
40's okay with me, if you wanna go that way, or if you wanna split it and go 45,
I'm still on 40.
42.50.
We're doing a reverse auction now, are we?
Yeah.
What about 50, 75, 1, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 1?
Yeah, I forgot.
Somewhere over there.
There's auctioneer family coming in. I can support the 40.
I'm good with that.
And Bill and I didn't talk about this. It just is something, I didn't even realize this was going to be on here today, so. But 40's good with me. I
Okay.
would make a motion that we do a per diem for all travel on meals to be $40 per day. Flat.
I'll second.
No receipts
All
needed.
right, motion is second.
Beginning immediately.
I think we should make it probably the first of the month, just so wash out what's already going through. Does that make sense, or is that, what's easier for you? Because I don't care.
Well, anything that comes in, everything that's in already would stand, as is, right?
As is, correct.
What do you?
But, okay, so you could either approve it this way, if I'm right, or you let Andrew know what you just let him know so that we can have the full policy of everything together, so you're not motioning
Yeah.
and voting
Let's-
on
okay.
pieces
Let's do
here and
that.
there.
All
Yeah,
right.
this is just a suggestions.
If that's okay, I would like you to have a full document with the,
Recommendation.
is that,
Yes, I mean, I think, yeah.
Yeah, recommendation,
fine.
$40.
Make it a full one.
It's
Yeah.
unanimous.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's go to mileage.
You know,
The document.
okay.
my initial thought on the mileage was, and that they should use their cars, but Bill, if we're talking 1,400 miles is the real travel, the sheriff's going to travel in their cars regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, they're going to do that.
I did put on here what their event was, so that you would know what they went to. And yes, I mean, sheriff is like SRO training, like handgun recertification. I mean,
Right. Plus, they're going to have their weapons, their equipment already in
Yeah.
those vehicles. Plus, they show up to an event, the sheriff heavily armed with shotguns and rifles and pistols. It's much easier to explain what you're doing with all them weapons when you're driving a marked police car versus a, not that
This is what, 6 months, so this is just up to now?
yes.
Yeah. So that's not the whole year, of course.
Yeah, because,
So that's still under 3,000 miles if you double it. I mean, outside of the sheriff's department, which I figured it was gonna be pretty minuscule anyway.
yeah, I wasn't sure where the numbers were going to come. But we were looking at the sheriff at 6,000 miles, which means, let's say it does 12,000. He's going to do those anyway. And they're going to take their cars. That's just all there is to it. Just makes sense. The highway at 294 miles, I mean, okay, so call that 600. That's not even a quarter of an oil change.
Yeah.
DCC at 822, we provide them with a car. Matter of fact, they're the ones that wanted the car wash tickets when I first got on board. Remember, we worked that out.
And that's not a new car.
No, it's a
It was an old,
older Fusion or something, wasn't it? I can't remember.
I'm thinking it was an old probation vehicle. Like, I think some cars got passed around. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't purchased new for them.
Yeah. And then the health department at 318.
18,
So if the health department does 800 miles, community corrections does 1,600, and the highway does 600, I'm not sure it's, Bill, I'm just being brutally honest here, I'm not sure it's really beneficial for us to I still want to track all these miles. I think they should be provided in their budgets. But I'm not willing, I don't think, to tell people they have to take their private car over a couple thousand miles, because that's what it works out to.
I agree.
Especially when the sheriff department can use theirs. Because then also what we're doing is we're causing a little division there between apartments too, and I'd like to see us all work together if we could. Now, if this would have been 10, 20, 30,000 miles,
Different story.
I would have said, hey, we need to travel less and use your own vehicle. But you know how I feel about travel, I don't need to go onto that bandwagon,
Let
but
me clarify, you want them to show it in their budget, meaning you want them to provide a report because it cannot go in their budget
No,
numbers.
I think a quarterly, given the low number of miles, a quarterly report would be adequate and informative.
why can't they put in their budget though, to give you an idea, does the highway department, let's talk about Ben's truck he drives, the Ford. Is that on a schedule for replacement in his budget? In other words, does he say, okay, the supervisors, the department superintendent head, every 7 years we replace this truck and it's this amount of money? That's what I'm talking about, put in the budget. Do they have?
Oh, you want it to be part of their, like, their capital needs, like their 5-year plans?
Yeah.
Yes, if they're, yeah. I mean, his is new, so it's not on there now, but yes, he does put on, they submit,
That gets budgeted for a replacement of the vehicle.
In their 5
they
years.
submit in their 5-year plan, hey, like, he's thinking that in 27, he's gonna need a new dump truck or something. Then that's noted that, yeah, that's the year we're gonna do it, and then when it's time for that budget, then he puts it in there.
Would the health department do the same thing then?
Yes.
They do for their, and
And the thing you need to remember, I mean, it's not that you have to remember it, because miles are miles, but both the health and the highway so far, and DCC, none of that is county general funded replacements. Those are either done by grants or the health or highway funds themselves. It's not a county general or a cumulative capital expense
right.
where the sheriff's vehicles and other vehicles come from.
So I guess my thinking, again, due to the limited miles, is if they're forward thinking and putting these cars into the budget and we know what they're gonna be looking for, and then if we get mileage reporting too, to me, that's sufficient.
Good.
I don't think it's worth burning the barn down over that issue.
All right.
I agree.
We have a majority agreeing on that, so basically that stays as is. No change.
So we'll,
Well,
but
we're-
in the policy, you're changing that the requests don't have to
Yeah.
come here, so we'll just get the report.
I still like the quarterly report.
Yeah,
And it's in their budget.
Yes.
It
in their
does not-
plan, in their
Right.
plan.
In their plan.
For replacement.
And it does not come to us for approval.
Right.
The travel doesn't, will not. When the whole policy
Right.
is,
Right.
we'll try to do that next week.
So there is a change.
So we're gonna do a motion then for not only the per diem, but for leaving the travel as is, as far as.
You're gonna do it today?
Yes.
Today, you're doing nothing. Today, you discuss this, and then if Andrew and I can
Ah,
get
that's right.
together
We
and
kinda
get
said that.
everything
Yeah.
brought up, then we'll bring the policy Monday,
Let's
We
do
can
that.
review
has
that
all
and-
of it.
Yeah, get that to us.
and then you have one.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay.
Stay in line. You're
Hey.
gonna sit right here where
My
Jody
hand
is.
still hurts where you hit me before. You guys saw it. It's on camera.
Okay.
Doing.
Anything else? What
I
else you got,
do.
Susan?
So I have, Jack brought to me, and I don't know that there's anything that you're doing today, but he brought to me, I can pass this around, for the highway video, the updated quote is 38,160 for the
12 cameras.
The cameras. That you guys changed some things on. So
That
I
we
didn't
reduced.
know.
Does that include installation, the whole bit? That's not just the equipment, right?
That
mean-
should include installation. I don't know
Because
that
we,
for
did we
fact.
take that out of, we took that out of the bot, didn't we? We're just paying for this? Or is this part of the,
No, that's part of the bond.
Yeah, it was,
okay, here we
No,
are.
it's not. installation is not part of it.
Excluded allowances or contingency, provision, installation of conduit and raceway and back boxes.
Okay, that's part of the construction.
That's part of the
already.
construction
Yeah.
that's
So,
already
yeah,
going.
That's already.
But they're still gonna provide the wire and everything and the
Right,
labor to
yeah,
hook it up.
yeah.
Provision installation of 120 volts. Yeah, we expect configuration of your network. I understand that. That's Jack's job. SAS and EC labor. Oh. So their labor is not included then.
It's probably not included because wasn't it requested that it was separate?
Yeah, but it
separated?
shouldn't have been. Should have been.
I would think they would roll that all into one, labor and
Well,
But it was
there was all that confusion about the $50,000 threshold versus the 150
Oh.
and trying to get those.
yeah, it does
Things
say
lined
here,
up.
though, it says our proposal includes all the required low-voltage copper and fiber optic cabling necessary for the security electronic system. So it sounds like the material needed is included,
Yeah,
but the labor
I
is
think
not.
we need to we need to get a labor figure in there
Yes.
before we can really.
Before we approve it.
Before we can do
Yeah,
anything.
we need a labor number, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're right, the conduit would be part of the construction process. That was in the drawings, so.
Yeah, that's already in FCI's.
All right. Okay, the only other thing that I have is I had sent you the, my capital assets vendor, Peterson Consulting Services Incorporated. I had sent you the next engagement for their work. And I looked back, I believe that I actually can do this myself, but I looked back and I had you guys approve it last year, so I was gonna have you guys approve it again for this year.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the agreement with Peterson Consulting.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Motion, or opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And that's all I have.
That's all you have?
Yep.
Okay, Melissa Salinas, anybody have anything else? Andrew?
No?
Jody? Mike?
Couple of quick things. I'd sent you guys the photos of the bass floating on the pond out there.
Oh,
So DNR went back out there after that walkthrough. We put a canoe in. The reason that all those fish are floating is because the deepest part of that pond, if you want to call it a pond, is 2 feet.
Oh, so superheating and no oxygen.
really?
He took depths,
The
most of it's 1.5 feet or less,
problem we're having on County Road 60 area there,
and everything on the north side is shallow enough you can wade across it.
Well, I anticipated that was deeper than that.
yeah, it's a big puddle is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we
The
put
winter,
that-
they'll
when we
die
put that
of-
new drain in there, we lowered that pond.
It lowered the about 1.5 feet.
Yeah.
But even at 18 inches added to that is not very deep.
No,
Very deep.
not for a pond.
So, and the reason I bring that up is that the city is still very interested in that property,
But
but I wonder,
Oh, I'm sorry.
given that it's more of a swamp or a wetland than it is a pond, they're asking if maybe there's some effect on the appraisal of that. So I
So-
told them I would bring that up.
I'm sorry, I thought this photo was the problem we had on County Road
No.
with what's his name?
No.
Oh, this
No,
is
no, this
our
is-
pond.
this is our pond.
I got it confused with the email that you, or the information you gave about that craft property. That was the
Yeah.
one that I
Oh,
was.
no, yeah, no.
Okay, now I am so sorry. I'm
That's all
misinformed.
right.
So yeah, the deepest spot's 2.5 foot, but the average looks like about 1.5 feet.
Yeah, and this on the
Oh,
north
it's all
side, you can just
marsh.
walk across it. It's.
You can, I'm
it's-
not walking
well,
in
No,
that.
I'm not either. But
Wow.
it's, yeah.
That's
So,
That's interesting.
yeah.
It's hard, yeah, I didn't anticipate that at all.
Now, I have no idea what weight the appraisers give the water as a pond versus a swamp or whatever, but the mayor brought that up as to, whether that would affect the appraisal or not.
It would me, I'm being brutally
Yeah,
honest. I
yeah.
wouldn't buy a pond that was 1.5 feet deep, but that's just my,
Particularly with all the fish are dead now.
The fish are dead.
He said those were all probably 2 or 3 pound
wow.
bass,
Well, they're eating
Yeah.
everything in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, to me, a pond, if it's not 7 or 8 foot deep minimum, you get a kill off in the winter too. If you get a hard winter and the ice goes thick, it removes, there's no oxygen in the water. There's no way for the water to replenish the oxygen and the fish die when they're overpopulated especially. But that's interesting.
Second thing is the Cedar Creek Bank Stabilization Project. They're working on tightening up the bid specs on that to go back out to rebid.
Okay.
But a good chunk of the bid price on that was hauling all the spoils somewhere over in Ohio. It was
Really?
like, the one bid was like 60,000, the other bid was 90,000 to haul the spoils out because DNR is crazy about what you do with the spoils. Well, the city, as it turns out, needs some fill at the water department for some things and several other places. So they will take all of the spoils that come out of that project, which ought to cut a big chunk out of the bid if they don't have to haul it
To Ohio.
clear to Ohio. So that's another thing that's going to cut down on the bid. And the Maumee River Basin Commission has committed now to that up to $100,000 match on the layer grant. That was sent out to all the board members, and the board, although we won't vote on it officially until the October meeting, the board was unanimous in saying that they were in favor of that project. So that'll substantially lower the Cedar Creek.
Well, the tree situation also would lower it, right? The trees, instead of the buckets out at the old golf course, do the root
At
plant.
the acres, yeah, putting in
Acres.
and Daryl McConnell talked to the folks at Acres. The only concern they had was they have a pretty substantial deer population there.
Oh my,
And you
yes.
know they like those bare root trees.
Yeah, they ate all my hostas.
Yeah.
Serious. I
Yeah.
mean, we
So-
have 40 or 50 deer on the old Greenhurst golf course there.
Yeah, but the DNR regulations on planting those require a 75% survival rate. So,
I guess so, why are the taxpayers funding that on that property?
well, because they're doing us a favor. DNR requires, I forget what the ratio is, but it's like, I don't know, 5 trees or 10 trees planted for every one you take out. So there was no place to put them on the project site. So they made a deal with Acres to let them
Put them out
put
there.
them out there.
See, but
Because
that,
we didn't have any other place to put them.
but that doesn't make sense to me, that replacement theory on this stuff. In other words, if the land that you're removing the trees from will not support more trees and you got to put them somewhere else instead, we're not really impacting negatively that land. I
would, no argument
And-
for me about that.
Well, and I know that's a
But,
state
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
but the other thing is, and nothing against acres, they're fine, but everyone else in the county and the city has to abide by the noxious weeds and the tall grass. Greenhurst Golf Course, which is now, which was Rick James took over, and he kept it mowed.
Yeah,
Now,
oh,
it
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
manicured, but he kept it below the 7 inches or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a mess back there now. We have raccoons, groundhogs,
No, they let everything grow.
digging up and noxious weeds, and the grass literally is 3 foot. Yet I just talked to a lady in Garrett who was fined $100 because the grass around her garage, because she couldn't trim it, her trimmer broke. It went to 8 inches or something. The city fined her. But the acres can have 122 acres in the middle of downtown Auburn that has weeds and 3 foot of grass in it, which I don't understand.
Wow.
And now we're going to throw more trees out there and more wild. It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. I like conservatism, don't get me wrong, they're a good, but I thought Rick James did a much better job of conserving Greenhurst than Acres is. Because it's literally like walking in an unmanicured woods.
Yeah.
It's even worse because there's not enough trees out there and the weeds just grow. The trees don't choke out the weeds.
That's the thing, yeah.
You'll have Canada thistles all over the place.
They're all
out there
over the
eventually,
place.
yeah.
And Rick did a good job. He planted wildfire flowers in the fairway, and then they tried to keep the weeds. I thought they did a great job, and I thought, oh, good, Acres has taken over. They'll do even better.
Yeah.
And it's a nightmare out there. I don't even like to walk through there now.
They do not.
So that's my
Go
opinion.
look at the property south of Auburn.
Yeah.
That'd be one to go look at, see how those trees are doing, because I think those are bucket trees they put in there, maybe, I'm not sure.
Where's this at?
Just just south of the old trailer park.
Oh, okay.
Across the river.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
Acres.
Yeah.
And they put a bunch of trees in there.
Okay.
But that's a concern, especially Canadian thistles.
Mm-hmm.
They're noxious
those
weeds,
things
the
are
last I
horrible.
knew.
Well, I just want to know why.
Township trustees supposed to keep those under control.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to know why my yard, which I'm in town,
Yeah.
and Acres is right behind me. My yard, if it goes over, I think 7 inches, whatever the city,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
they'll be nice. They'll send you a letter first, and then when you don't do it, they'll mow it for you.
Yeah.
I want to know when the city's going to mow Acres property, and that's because they're in violation, in my opinion, unless they have some special exemption that they worked out with the city. But the county also has an ordinance against noxious weeds.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's DNR, really, that works with the land trust.
Is that who it
So,
is?
which, of course, that supersedes anything as far as city or
Because,
county regulations.
doesn't make sense.
Well, a lot of DNR stuff doesn't make sense.
Right. I know.
Just
I
the way
know.
it is.
Okay, anything else, Mike?
No, that's all I had.
Todd, anything?
No?
Susan? I guess we're done.
All right,
We are
thank you.
adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
All done.
Off the record, Mike, I'm not interested in who can stack the most people, the most opinions going one way or the other. I'm only interested in the quality of opinion. So,
Well, I thought everybody's opinion was just as valid, Bill. I mean,
depends on who's.
you know, well,